ad campaign welcoming Floridians to move to California. And then when discussing this battle on Fox News yesterday, Ron DeSantis used a very unfortunate choice of words.
We have led amongst all big states since COVID in economic growth. Our unemployment rate's 2.6%. California's is over 4%. And here's the proof in the pudding, Kaylee. Here's the proof in the pudding.
Proof in the pudding, Kaylee.
The proof is right there in between his disgusting fingers in the pudding. I mean, for the love of God, man, has no one from your PR team told you not to avoid that term of phrase? But yeah, like we said, this feud started last year when Gavin Newsom released this ad.
It's Independence Day, so let's talk about what's going on in America. Freedom, it's under attack in your state. Your Republican leaders, they're banning books, making it harder to vote, restricting speech in classrooms, even criminalizing women and doctors. I urge all of you living in Florida to join the fight, or join us in California, where we still believe in freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom to choose, freedom from hate, and the freedom to love. Don't let them take your freedom.
Paid for by Newsom for California Governor 2022.
Despite getting his feelings hurt by this ad, DeSantis doesn't seem willing to actually debate Gavin Newsom on the issues. From the Hill, Newsom said last week he would debate DeSantis, and DeSantis fired back telling Newsom to stop pussyfooting around on whether he is going to run for president in 2024. Although DeSantis sounds more like he's running for president in 1924 with riffraff and pussyfoot. I mean, for the love of God, man, it's 2023. But DeSantis is fundraising in California this week, according to the Hill. DeSantis made fundraising stops Monday in Sacramento in the Bay Area, while simultaneously insulting those areas. On Tuesday, the governor was slated to attend fundraisers in San Diego, Orange County, and Los Angeles, according to the Associated Press. Now, Dan, I need to check in on you right now as you live in the liberal hellscape of California. I want to make sure that there's not, people actively defecating around you or doing crack cocaine.
Yeah, I was like, everything about that is basically just like Miami at 1 a.m. Just like
right.
All the drugs, all of the, bodily fluids, all the body movements. And yeah, look, see, he's pussyfooting with the riffraff. And you tell me right now, and I will take off my white glove and I will smack Gavin Newsom across the forehead with it. Like, it's just like, what? I'm not sure what world he's living in, but Ron DeSantis is just one of the most uncharacteristic politicians I've seen in a while. But I think it's really interesting because all the Republicans he's touring to in California love that idea that, oh yeah, LA's a crap hole, San Francisco's a crap hole. It's funny because people keep coming to both places for tourism, and people keep coming to both places not to live here because it's very expensive. Why? Because those same rich people choose to live here and they bring the prices up. And there's a number of different factors as well. And I'm one of the first people in California to say that like we need to spend more resources on making sure people are housed, because in fact there was a recent study that came out showing specifically in California, number one reason people don't have homes, real obvious. Homes are expensive and they're being pushed out of their homes. So instead of demonizing them by saying, oh, they have to go and use the bathroom on the street, as though we have public bathrooms on the street all the time that people have access and can go to, maybe actually do something about it. That's a challenge to Gavin Newsom. That's also a challenge to Ron DeSantis, who thinks he's smart by pointing it out on one street corner that, by the way, is getting a lot of traffic in downtown San Francisco, and not looking at all the areas that may get a lot of break-ins all the time because the police do nothing, but still have a lot of foot traffic, have a lot of tourists coming in, have a lot of energy. So just get off your high horse, DeSantis.
Right, and can I just say how there's something about Gavin Newsom that's like Patrick Bateman-esque. The way that he has like groomed himself to be the president of the United States someday.
Oh yeah.
It's disturbing. Like I watch him and my skin crawls, and not the same way that my skin crawls with Ron DeSantis. My skin crawls with Ron DeSantis because I know he could murder a dog in front of me and smile about it. But there's just something so like phony and creepy about Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom dated Kimberly Guilfoyle. Remember that. Gavin Newsom
best is yet to come.
Phrasing. Gavin Newsom also slept with his best friend's wife, who his best friend was also his campaign manager when he was running for mayor in San Francisco. So that's all you need to know about Gavin Newsom, is like a person deep down in his soul.
Oh God. All right. Well, here's hoping he never becomes president of the United States.
We have, I don't love him. He's not as progressive as me, but like we have a lot worse options as far as the presidential race. So that means we need better Democrats, honestly.
But that's all the time we have today. Dan, thank you so much for joining me. Fun as always. Remind the people where they can see your content, how they can follow you.
Check me out on Power Report live at twitch.tv/DanFromTheWeb, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays. This episode, me and the host are going to be doing it in character, which should be very exciting. I need to get some costume changes soon, but yeah, check me out. Also check out everything Ravana does, because her Twitch stream is awesome and your Twitter account is very funny, making fun of these people. So check her out as well.
Thank you. Thank you for shouting me out. Thanks for joining me today, and thank you to everyone watching for joining us as we broke down some of these really great and funny stories. We'll be back tomorrow for more Watch List, but until then, you have to stick around because the main show is coming up right after this.
All right, welcome to Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, David Schuster with you guys today. We've got an amazing show for you all. Tragic news out of the submarine. We'll talk about that a little bit later. People throwing phones, people throwing punches. Are Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg actually going to physically fight? That's fascinating. That story's coming up later in the program. All right, we've got a lot more where that came from. David, take it away.
Cenk, yesterday we brought everybody the story of Marjorie Taylor Greene on the House floor calling Lauren Boebert a little bitch. Well, one day later, we've learned a little bit more about their confrontation. So let's go through this with a little bit of context now that we've been able to develop. In case you missed yesterday's story, here's what this very silly spat between the two MAGA Republicans was all about. Greene introduced impeachment articles against Biden as early as January 2021, and then again this May. Boebert put forward her own impeachment articles more recently, but has been trying to force an immediate vote on them by turning them into a so-called privileged resolution that can go straight to the floor. This is according to Seaford. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene was very unhappy that Lauren Boebert was essentially trying to undercut or one up Marjorie Taylor Greene. And earlier in the day, Greene said she has been a long champion of articles of impeachment against Biden and strongly suggested Lauren Boebert is late to a push that she herself, Greene, already owns. Lauren Boebert never addressed the conference. I made it clear to the conference that I have introduced articles of impeachment literally since Joe Biden's first day in office. I have been talking about it with everybody forever, literally everyone forever. If I'm blue in the face, you see me? I'm blue in the face, as if it's a good thing to deprive your brain of oxygen and become blue in the face. Well, the big fight then happened later in the day. And here's what happened. They were both on the House floor. The back and forth apparently began when Lauren Boebert approached Greene, who was then seated in the chamber, and confronted Greene over her statements you made about me publicly. Greene then stood up and alleged that Boebert copied my articles of impeachment, to which the Colorado lawmaker fired back that she has not even read Greene's resolution. Greene, I've donated to you, I've defended you, but you've been nothing but a little bitch to me. And you copied my articles of impeachment after I asked you to co-sponsor them. Boebert, okay, Marjorie, we're through. Greene, we were never together. Now, it's not exactly clear what happened, but at some point during the fight, this came. Greene said that at one point, Boebert accused Greene, the Georgia lawmaker, of accidentally spitting on her lip. Then towards the end of the exchange, Boebert tried to re-engage Greene, but Greene cut the conversation off. I said, you need to shut up because the only person that's recognized to speak right now is Luna. Greene told Seaford, referring to Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Republican from Florida, who was then giving a speech on the floor. So a little more context. I'm not sure it gets any prettier, Cenk, but your reaction?
Yeah, okay, these are children, and let me explain what would happen if adults were involved in this conversation. So let's say that I was in Congress and I'd introduced a resolution on paid family leave. And then later, someone else introduced a resolution on paid family leave, and it looked like it had momentum and might pass. That wouldn't make me mad, that would make me happy, because I want paid family leave. But for them, it's not about the policies, and this is nonsense anyway. It's impeachment of Biden over literally nothing. So Marjorie Taylor Greene's point is, I was a fraud well before you were a fraud. And Boebert's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to steal your thunder on how big a fraud I am. So there's nothing to care about. There's no policy. None of this is gonna help the average American's life at all. And it's all about egos. And that's why they're fighting, that's why they hate each other now. Even though ostensibly they agree on policy, although I haven't really seen them talk about policy ever. To help the average American? No, maybe to hurt people like, oh, I hate trans people, I hate gay people, I hate black people, whatever it is. Oh, January 6th when we tried to do a coup against America was awesome. Instead of about policy, something that actually helps the average American. Nothing. So, and to be fair, look, there's these kind of like, there's fights between Democrats and Republicans that are very similar to this. So Democrats are not completely innocent of this either overall. Now in this particular fight, it's only these two, right? And so I'm being clear about it. But look, on the Democratic side, the main problem is they don't have enough fights because they actually disagree on policy. So the progressives want paid family leave. The great majority of the Democratic Party are corporate Democrats who don't want it. And so the progressives should challenge them on actual policy. But none of that works here in Washington. It's a bunch of children. They're aided and abetted by the mainstream press that loves this kind of stuff. And so, and by the way, okay, here, I'll adjudicate this nonsense fight. Who's correct? Yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene is more correct in Washington world. She introduced the resolution first, and you're supposed to give deference out of the etiquette, blah, 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 blah. Okay, who's actually correct if you cared about Biden being impeached, which is, as I stated earlier, absurd anyway, but Boebert is correct because Boebert had introduced it in a way that would force a vote right away. Now, the reason that Marjorie Taylor Greene did not do that is because she's working with Kevin McCarthy, and Kevin McCarthy does not want it introduced right away, as he showed by basically kicking it over to a committee that David will probably tell us about in a second. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene was being a good soldier by not pushing it forward, and when Lauren Boebert did push it forward, then she caught feelings like, that should be my credit. I should get the credit for being dumber than you, okay? Well, all right, have at it, Hoss.
Well, and we've also found out that Marjorie Taylor Greene has apparently a certain affinity for the word bitch because she's now used it repeatedly, and we'll explain that in just a sec. But first of all, both congresswomen spoke to the media after their little spectacle on the House floor. And by the way, this is the same House floor where Marjorie Taylor Greene served as parliamentarian a few weeks ago and called for decorum. Anyway, this is what Greene told the Daily Beast. I'm sorry, Lauren Boebert told the Daily Beast, Marjorie is not my enemy. I came here to protect our children and their posterity. Joe Biden and the Democrats are destroying our country. My priorities are to correct their bad policies and save America. Here's what Greene told the Daily Beast. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. Greene also spoke to Semaphore about the showdown. Greene said that she told Boebert she was upset that the Colorado lawmaker had decided to imitate rather than support Greene's own impeachment effort. It's purely for fundraising, said Greene. It's throwing out red meat so that people will donate to her and Lauren Boebert's campaign because she's coming up on the end of the month and she's trying to produce good fundraising numbers. Asked whether there was any chance the two would reconcile after the confrontation, Greene said, absolutely not. She has genuinely been a nasty little bitch to me. Yes, she used the word bitch again. Well, that night, Lauren Boebert, the Colorado Republican, then claimed that she needed to impeach Joe Biden because it was a holy mission. Watch.
All glory to God. This is grace. This is God's empowerment and His ability, and staying grounded, rooted in the Word of God. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And I am directed and led by Him. You know, there was pressure for me not to introduce the articles of impeachment tonight. Well, not introduce them, but bring them up and call them for a vote. And I said, you know, I have a peace, a still in my spirit, and I'm going to be led by peace. not by the pressure from the outside. And we've seen that on full display with the speaker's race, where Matt Gaetz and I were surrounded, pressure from the outside, but strong on the inside, knowing that we are purposed and that we are doing what is right, what is righteous. It is all about being led by the Spirit of God in everything that you do. I do give him all glory for where I am, for the people that he has positioned me with and in front of, to speak life into situations and to hold the corrupt accountable.
So Lauren Boebert was on a mission from God to impeach Joe Biden. You may recall the Blues Brothers were on a mission from God, but for them it was to raise money for a Catholic church. For Lauren Boebert, it's to impeach Joe Biden. In any case, unfortunately for Boebert, Cenk, as you mentioned, Kevin McCarthy put the big kibosh on her mission. House Republicans are now aiming to refer a Biden impeachment resolution to 2 committees instead of holding an immediate vote on impeaching the president. The House will vote Thursday to send a resolution offered by Representative Lauren Boebert, Colorado, to the Homeland Security and Judiciary Committees. This is from NBC News. The House Rules Committee advanced the plan in a last-minute meeting Wednesday night after huddling with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who urged rank-and-file Republicans at a closed-door meeting earlier in the day to oppose Boebert's resolution, arguing that such an important issue should go through the committee process. 3 GOP sources who heard the comments confirmed. There are also several Republicans close to McCarthy who spoke on the record to the media, blasting impeachment, regardless of whether it's from Marjorie Taylor Greene or from Lauren Boebert, saying that it is misguided, it is premature, it undercuts their existing Joe Biden investigations. And so interestingly, Cenk, Republicans at least seem to understand the political problems here, and that is, they understand that they're giving Democrats a huge political gift by portraying the GOP yet again as reckless and not serious.
Yeah. So, all right, look, at least one person says something honest in this exchange. And that was, funny enough, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She said that Boebert's doing it for fundraising. That is definitely true. And she would know because Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced that resolution earlier for fundraising. And all of this theater is for fundraising. So look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and a lot of the radical right have figured out something accidentally. When AOC and others ran as uncorrupted Democrats with no corporate PAC money, they actually had to try to appeal to the grassroots to get money. And so they had to do things that were popular on their side. And the right wing learned from that. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert now do inflammatory things that are popular on their side. But on their side, you have to be a lunatic to be popular. So you have to say, like, for example, on this articles of impeachment, anybody who watches the show knows I massively disagree with Joe Biden on a ton of things. But impeachment, what are we impeaching him for? And the Republicans are like, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Something we disagree with him on policy, the border. Yeah, that's it. You can't impeach someone because you disagree with them on policy. I think Joe Biden was a fraud on minimum wage. He said that he was gonna raise minimum wage. He didn't even try, he torpedoed it on his own. He's a giant liar and a greasy politician. So are all of them. You don't impeach someone over that. You impeach someone over something that they did wrong legally, not because you disagree. But they don't care about any policy. They don't care about anything related to the actual voters. This is all for fundraising, ego, etc. And then what is that God gobbledygook? You know, you right wingers, you both kill me and amuse me. I mean, like, what are you guys doing? Like, you listen to that crap and you believe that? All she has to say is like, God spoke to me and God agrees with my impeachment proceedings. So God made me do it, so it must be right. Wait a minute, can I just say the same thing? Okay, God says that he's in favor of paid family leave. Go pass it now. Okay, it's not me. It's not me, it's God. Well, now you gotta do it. Now you gotta do it. And I'll use the same gobbledygook, like there's a, what did she say? I'm gonna put life into it, and there's a split somewhere, and there's a log in somebody else's eye, and Gog and Magog want something else. Whatever, let's pass some goddamn real bills instead of this crap. All right, and lastly, in terms of going to committee, what that means is they delayed it because they don't want to do it, okay? So the leadership of the Republicans, why don't they want to do it? When they all would fundraise off of it, their base is frothing at the mouth and like, they wanted to. Marjorie Taylor Greene is blue in the face, as David explained to you earlier, because from the minute she got in, let's impeach Biden. But wait, he hadn't done anything yet. Because they don't care about reality, right? But Republican leadership realizes we're all starting to sound and look like lunatics. Before, and then David, this is really important because before they had a nice little shell game that mainstream media would help them with. Oh, well, the Republicans are just as good. I mean, I can't tell, 50-50. They could be right, the Democrats could be right. Maybe the rich deserve another couple of $1 trillion in tax cuts. I can't tell, it's 50-50. Now it doesn't look 50-50 anymore because they look like goddamn lunatics. So now they're not gonna lose their base over that. Their base loves it, they fraud more, right? No, they're gonna lose important swing districts and maybe swing states. That's why they're worried, not because they wanna do the right thing. It's the Republican Party, that would never happen.
I think they may also, Jack, end up losing supporters of, say, border and custom control workers and agents, because one of the things that, one of the Democrats read the articles of impeachment in one of the hearings already. And literally you have Lauren Boebert's resolution, which says Joe Biden has given the border to total anarchy to the cartels. Now, you can make an argument that maybe the cartels have more power over the border, maybe they have more influence, but to suggest that they totally control the border is ridiculous. Likewise, to suggest that it's Joe Biden has turned into an open border to invite everybody in. Well, again, that's maybe a great rhetorical flourish if you're conservative, but that's not grounded based in reality. And it's the difference between you want to argue over the policy, then let's have a serious argument over whether there should be more border security, whether it should be tighter, whether there should be more efforts to take on the cartel. But to just make up a bunch of baloney, which is absolute nonsense, which is insulting to the border states and also to the border agents who are down there, it doesn't seem like that serves any real benefit to the Republicans and only seems to hurt them, at least politically, in some of the Southwest states.
So I don't mean to offend third graders here, but I'm done trying to argue with Republicans. It's like arguing with a third grader. Like, oh, what do you think? Oh, you think the policy should be different because Sally wore the wrong bow. Okay, good one. Let me think about it. Look, every Republican politician is a liar. Every single one of them. Because they all say, as an example, but I can give you hundreds of examples. Oh, we have an open border. No, we don't, that's a lie. There's like if we had an open border and nobody was guarding it and it was perfectly legal to come in, a hell of a lot more people would come in. No, there's laws against it, and that's why we detain people when they come across the border. And in fact, they say we're not detaining enough people. Oh wait, so that means we are detaining people. That means it's not an open border, and every one of you is a goddamn liar. So what am I debating? I'm not debating these clowns. And the mainstream media, unfortunately, again, they aid and abet this by having debates over matters of fact that can't be debated, right? So how do I debate your non-facts with my facts? It makes no sense at all. And the only way you debate it is you wind up being Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert debating each other about who's dumber and who's the bigger bitch and weirdo stuff like that. So welcome to America. This is what our government has turned into.
And one more bite at this apple, and that is there seems to be a sense, Cenk, among a lot of the rank and file Republicans, based on some of the reports in social media, that this is not the end of the Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert fight, that this is really just the beginning, that it's gonna get more intense, it's gonna get harsher, they will start dragging in their various allies and supporters. And so you really are perhaps looking at a circular firing squad, at least in the MAGA caucus, over who should get credit for trying to impeach Joe Biden for something so absurd. So, if you're a Democrat, I think you sit back and you open up the popcorn and you enjoy it, because you are literally starting to watch the Republicans disintegrate and tear themselves apart before our eyes.
Yeah, David, last thing on that, this good point. There is a silver lining there, which is that normally the Republicans shred the Democrats. They lie about them, they rip their face off, and the Democrats are like, oh, please don't, you're being offensive, and they never fight back. Now, at least they're being vicious to each other. Good, Republican politicians rip each other apart, and at least you're taking each other out instead of innocent people along the way. So have at it, Hoss. We'll sit here with the popcorn and enjoy.
Love it. I think we're going to a break, right, Cenk?
Yep, so we got to take the break. And now when we come back, one of the things that's happening is they decided to go after Adam Schiff. I mean, you want to talk about nonsense. Again, Adam Schiff, can't stand him. Now you're gonna force me to defend him. It's just, one party in this country is totally incompetent and the other one is filled with lunatics. So yay, America. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT. Let's go to member comments. Obi-Wan writes in, when Zuck and Musk throw down, the event needs a TYT special. Yeah, look, guys, if they actually do it, that pay-per-view will bring in, I don't know, $100 million. And trust me that we're not gonna get the rights to it. We'll have fun covering it on the side, but I'm just keeping it real if it actually happens. Square peg in a round hole. Nothing like, it writes in, nothing like MAGA infighting to bring a little entertainment into our lives. Bring on the popcorn and wine. Or is that wine as in whining? I get it. Biden flavor corn pop, says David Schuster. Lots of fire emojis and several heart emojis. And then, and it actually, to be more accurate, not David Schuster, but David Schuster. Okay. And
I'm just glad there was not a cougar bait joke in there.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, hold. And then they wrote in jank with a number of crowns, apparently king. Okay, I like that. Thank you. Riffmaster says Marjorie Boebert is the Megazord we didn't want. Okay, that's funny. Irene says about Boebert versus MTG. This is almost as good as a cage match between Musk and Zuckerberg. Seth Michael Draginski says take it to the mud pits. Ladies, no, seriously, take it to the mud pits. That would be entertaining, and I wouldn't put it past them, but I wouldn't go in that direction. Trump's Lady Lump says you couldn't find more white trash in a drama in a 1990s Jerry Springer episode. My only question is, how does Marjorie Taylor Greene hide her Pabst Blue Ribbon on the House floor? But guys, you know, first, I don't like to talk white trash or stuff like that, and I get it. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not represent herself well or her community well by being so uninformed about everything in the world. But if they actually represented their constituents that were, you name it, middle class, poor, etc., in that area that were white or whatever they were, that would be awesome if they actually represented their economic interests and got them help, right? But they don't do that. That's a good case scenario, not a bad case scenario. On YouTube members, the Freedom House 1984 writes in, anyone that speaks to God, I treat like a child that is an imaginary friend. Same thing in my mind. Now, I know it's not the same thing in everybody's mind, and I hear you on that. But when they claim to speak for God, that's when I go, no, sorry, no. I draw the line. You're not actually speaking to God. You've lost touch with reality, and I don't care what you think God whispered in your ear. Doodoo Bean writes in, Lauren Boebert wants Pat Robertson's vacant throne. Plausible. We'll see what happens. All right, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and David with you guys. Also, Mario Mansilla. Mario just joined by hitting the join button below the video on YouTube, thereby becoming an American hero and helping to do us to do honest reporting and is part of the team now. And you all can do likewise at tyt.com/join. And our prices are still super low, even though we did have inflation. We did not raise them at all. And I'm gonna read one comment from a YouTube member because I like it. HC wrote in, imagine if Ilhan Omar said she's doing something for Allah. That's an excellent point. Everybody's heads would explode. But when Lauren Boebert, she says she's doing it for God, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I love having a smart audience. I love it. Okay, David, what's next?
Jack, let's hope that our audience, our viewers on this day, if they are watching us or listening to us from Texas, let's all hope that they have a good working air conditioning system that is strong and consistent, because the state is in the midst of a nasty heat wave. Here's a headline from Axios: Texas steam bath continues with record-breaking heat. Axios writes, with heat indices reaching upwards of 120 degrees Fahrenheit across parts of the Lone Star State, the high temperatures are endangering lives. It is forecast to continue into the weekend and may even intensify next week. A heat wave in Texas and surrounding states has prompted the National Weather Service to issue heat warnings and advisories for more than 40 million people at a time. Of note, the affected areas in the south central states and Mexico are in line with global developments. Deadly extreme heat has scorched parts of India and China, and the North Atlantic Ocean continues to break sea surface temperature records, with alerts issued for marine heat waves that can damage coral reefs. Axios continues, context: climate change is increasing the severity, frequency, and likelihood of extreme heat events in the United States and worldwide, numerous studies show. Climate Central's Climate Shift Index recently showed the high temperatures forecast during the ongoing heat wave are at least 5 times more likely to occur now due to increased amounts of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere compared to the pre-industrial era. And that is just the impact, by the way, of course, on the ground and in the sea. The airline industry is now acknowledging that climate change is increasing our risk of this. Watch.
One of the most extreme cases of turbulence caught on camera. A flight attendant picking up empty beverage cups slammed to the ceiling of the 737. The suddenness and strength of the turbulence highlighted by how much is thrown to that ceiling, including the beverage cart, as the jet drops significantly. The cart crashing onto passengers, some scalded by hot water, according to those on the Bulgarian jetliner from Kosovo to Switzerland. 10 passengers transported to the hospital.
This incident was from a few years ago. It involves something known as clear air turbulence, and that is turbulence that forms in essentially a cloudless sky. It's essentially by surprise. In other words, there are sudden wind shears that form that catch pilots and aircraft at a time when maybe they're not expecting it. And these wind shears are caused by changes in the jet stream. Those are those invisible rivers of air that go through our atmosphere. Well, when those jet streams change and they curve or they bend, that causes these very strong wind shears. And as a result, these wind shears create these pockets of clear air turbulence. Well, severe clear air turbulence, and this is as The Verge reported, severe clear air turbulence has already become more common, according to a study published in the journal Geophysical Research Letters last week. On a typical flight route over the North Atlantic, there was a 55% increase in clear air turbulence between 1979 and 2020. While the increase in turbulence was the most pronounced over the United States and North Atlantic, the study also found significantly more turbulence along popular routes over Europe, the Middle East, and South Atlantic and Eastern Pacific. Turbulence already costs the airlines hundreds of millions of dollars each year in terms of damage and repairs and flight delays. And unlike turbulence that is, say, associated with thunderstorms, where an aircraft radar can pick up the water droplets and essentially guide pilots around it, again, with clear air turbulence, it is essentially invisible to pilots and all of their equipment. The only good news in this is that pilots say that if you are in clear air turbulence, it doesn't have to last very long as you ascend or descend a few thousand feet out of this wind shear pocket. So at least the pilots, Jack, they know how to deal with it. But for everybody who's back in the cabin who's already been jostled because the pilot said you were free to walk around the cabin and you were technically not guaranteed of a free, eventless sort of walk to the bathroom, well, you can thank climate change.
Yeah, so first of all, on the issue of the planes, I remember, always thinking, what are we putting the seatbelt on for? Who are we kidding? This is all just psychological, because if this plane crashes, I got news for you, the seatbelt ain't gonna help, right? But then I heard the story of Don King a while back, and apparently, and look, I heard it from a friend, so just warning, I didn't get it from an article, etc., so buyer beware. But that this happened to Don King, that they had turbulence, he didn't have a seatbelt on, boom, and he goes and he hits his head on the top of the ceiling of the plane, and that he got really injured, right? And so kind of like you saw in that video. Now, if you're thinking, well, look at that happened a while back, and so turbulence happens from time to time. No, that's the whole point. We had heat in Texas before, of course, right? We've had extreme weather events before. We've had turbulence before. But now there's a lot more of it, and it's more extreme. And guys, there's another one where we're having nonsense debates. Who are we debating? We're debating the oil companies. The oil companies are the ones that bought off 100% of the Republican Party, and let's be honest, a giant portion of the Democratic Party. There's no actual facts that we're debating. All of the scientists agree. It's not complicated. The temperature readings are higher, the oceans are warmer, the ice caps are melting. Everything is far more extreme than it has been before. We've shown you all the graphs. So what's the debate about? There's no debate. This is definitely happening, and it's not gonna happen later. It's happening now. It's happening now, right? And yet, nobody's doing anything about it. And meanwhile, the so-called Democratic president, Joe Biden, is doing fossil fuel pipeline after fossil fuel pipeline, Willow Project, Mountain Valley Pipeline, pretended that he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do Green New Deal. Oh yeah, I'm FDR 2.0. No, he serves his donors just like the Republicans do. And so we're all on that plane that you saw together. And we're all gonna bang our heads, and we're all gonna be in massive, and we already are in massive trouble. But yet we can't get the idiot, corrupt politicians and the idiot, corrupt media to pay attention and say things that are true. The media looks out and goes, oh, I don't know, 99% of the world's scientists versus a Republican politician paid millions of dollars by the oil companies. I can't tell, I'll call it 50-50.
Jen, for the nerds, for the fellow nerds out there who want to know a little bit more about the science, particularly with a clear turbulence. So what happens is these greenhouse gases, they get pumped into the troposphere. That is sort of the lowest level of the atmosphere. Some of the mountains stick into the troposphere. We have aircraft that fly in the troposphere. Well, above the troposphere, of course, is the stratosphere. And when you heat up the troposphere, and the stratosphere has a much colder temperature, that variant, that is what causes these massive sort of changes to the jet stream and the wind shear. So it's literally, not that complex. It's simply more warmth is going to the sort of the air above us, the troposphere. That difference with the stratosphere is causing these canyons and these various deep wind shears that are affecting the jet stream. There used to be a time when, okay, well, we can pretty much predict, weather forecasters could say, okay, based on various pressure domes, the jet stream's gonna be here, it's gonna be here, and they could sort of advise aircraft, be careful of where the jet stream turns over, say, Michigan or Ohio, whatever it is, there might be some problems there. Well, now the jet stream is being broken up so often and being turned around and being, not turned around, but being bent and sort of ways that allow nearly impossible now for the airline industry, for civilian aircraft, military aircraft to keep track of all the different possible trouble spots, because that's how much the jet stream is changing. It's not as predictable as it was 20 or 30 years ago. And again, there's a direct correlation with climate change.
Yeah, and so here's a great irony. Remember, the Republicans made up that lie that if you pass a Green New Deal, that they would ban all air travel? Just a lie, total, utter lie, right? Well, as it turns out, the thing that's endangering air travel is not passing the Green New Deal. By the way, Americans don't disagree. Green New Deal, when it was first introduced, in 2 separate polls, polled over 80%. It still polls massively popular, well over 2/3 of the country. But we don't have a democracy. We have a Congress filled with crooks who take bribes for a living, and a media who says, I see no evil, I hear no evil. Oh, the planet's burning, and now we have these pockets of turbulence that come out of nowhere and are extreme weather events that are gonna harm you like 1,000 other things. Nope, let's go mine the minerals on the meteor.
John, let's go on and talk a little bit about, speaking of crooks, let's talk about some awful cops in Sacramento. The Sacramento, California City Council has just released some police body camera video of local police putting a 10-year-old girl who was in pajamas in handcuffs. And they did this as she cried and sobbed. The incident from February 2022 was part of a 2-year audit of complaints that the city council asked for, complaints against the police department that they then reviewed. And it was part of this was to sort of take a look at, well, how responsive are the police? Are they responding to complaints? Are the complaints making a difference? On this particular video clip that we're going to show you in just a second here that was released, you had members of the local Sacramento police force, all white, who were going to an African-American home, and they were looking to do a probation check on a verified gang member. So no problem there. But take a look at the aggressiveness and the tone that the police used and continued to use when the gang member didn't show up, but this little girl did, who, by the way, was watching her bedridden grandmother. Here's the video.
Hi, can you unlock this, please? Can you open this screen door? It's the police department. Can you open this? Hey, Sacramento Police Department, come to the door. To the door. Can you open this, man? Come to the door right now.
Listen, we're gonna kick the door down, and we don't want to do that.
Come to the door right now. Open the door.
I'm a baby.
Open the door.
You're not a baby if you're not listening.
Open the door. Come outside.
Come outside right now.
Who is here?
You're going.
Who is here? There's another one in here.
No, you don't get to go and hide and turn off the lights. That's not how this works. Okay, but you're going to be detained in handcuffs because you're not listening.
I'm scared.
Why are you running and hiding?
I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
How old are you?
I'm 10.
At that point, the police officer took the handcuffs off of the sobbing girl and went from taunting and gruff to a bit more empathetic and calm. The police audit found that this handcuffing of a 10-year-old girl did not violate police policy because such policy does not exist. As the Sacramento Bee reports, the city's Inspector General Dwight White and CPSA Director Letitia Watson showed a snippet of body camera footage during Tuesday's City Council meeting, eliciting tears from several members of the audience. During the video from February 10, 2022, several white male officers can be seen screaming at people inside to open the door, grabbing the metal screen and forcibly shaking it so hard it looks like it will fall off the hinges. The audit revealed a systemic problem of officers engaging in a pattern of unreasonable stops, searches, and seizures, violating community members' Fourth Amendment rights, especially Black and Latino residents. It included 109 complaint cases of improper search and seizure from June 2020 through June 2023. Police Chief Kathy Lester said she agreed with parts of the audit, which contained helpful recommendations, but disagreed with the finding that racial bias in search and seizure actions is systemic. It is worth noting that the police chief defended the officer's detainment of the girl, but the chief acknowledged that they should have detained her in another way without using handcuffs, and that handcuffs were not necessary. However, the police department also points out that the handcuffs were only on for 30 seconds, they say. Well, a number of mental health experts point out that even 30 seconds of a traumatic experience like this is something that could scar this young girl for a lifetime. There are a number of cities, Cenk, across the United States that simply do not have a policy when it comes to whether or not their officers should handcuff young children. That is now something being reviewed, at least in Sacramento.
Yeah. So look, to double down on what David said, they go out there and do a probation check. Nothing wrong with that. They're frustrated that they can't get an answer. We get it, okay? But when you see the girl and you see how young she is, you can't have that reaction, okay? And you can't justify that reaction. So I got a 10-year-old daughter, coincidentally. Oh my God, if cops came in and then handcuffed her just like that, yeah, she'd be a wreck. I mean, you know why? Because she's 10 years old. And that's super traumatic because they don't know what's going on. And we tell her not to answer the door to strangers. I'm sure this person was told the same thing. In fact, I think in the story they did explain that she was told that. That's why she turned off the lights. She thought it's a stranger. I'm not supposed to answer the door. I'm worried. Her grandmother's bedridden inside. Look, miscommunications happen, but we've got to teach cops to be decent to the citizens. That's the policy that doesn't exist. And that's what I'm most worried about. Now, is there also an issue of race? Look, I'd be surprised if they did it to my daughter. I gotta be honest with you. And why? because so my wife is Asian, so my daughter's half Asian and half whatever I am, Mediterranean or whatever. She looks fairly Asian, so we're in a middle class neighborhood. I'd be surprised. Okay, but it doesn't have to be anecdotal. You don't have to take my word for it, etc. No, they did an audit, and there's a pattern where they target blacks and Latinos. Now, why do they do that, by the way? Is it just because, oh my God, all the cops are racist? No, because unfortunately, demographically in this country, blacks and Latinos are not as wealthy as whites in general, okay? And by the way, Asians. And so it's easier to target minority communities with less power. You know, we've had cops on the show who are good, honest folks who retired, who came and said, yeah, I mean, we're not gonna go and patrol the rich white part of town because you arrest the wrong 10-year-old in this case, but they said, of course, adult in that case. You arrest the wrong guy, you could be in a world of trouble. But when you target black and Latino communities, you aren't gonna be in trouble. That was the old days. Now, because some of these cameras, they are getting in trouble, and that's a good thing that should lead to reform, and reform doesn't mean no cops, and it also doesn't mean we don't change anything and we just give the cops more money. It means, God damn it, will somebody reform these police departments all across the country?
Cenk, I've looked at this video and it runs several minutes. It was posted by the Sacramento City Council. I've looked at it a couple different ways, and we've got a video up on it on Rebel HQ. And one of the things that sort of jumps out to me every time I see this is that at the moment that the little girl sort of walks out, you have the one cop who says, "You're going to jail," taunting her, like hectoring her, frightening her. And to me, it gets right in with the sort of the training point that you were mentioning, and that is police. It's almost like it's institutional. They are culturally trained, I think, to dominate situations, to be a force, to not have any sort of officer safety in jeopardy. And the way they do that is they are told, you must take control, you must dominate, be the alpha male or the alpha female, whatever it is. The problem with that is that it doesn't allow enough time for an officer to take a step back, take a deep breath and say, oh my God, this is just a 10-year-old girl. Hey, let's lower our voice, let's try to de-escalate, let's not make people as nervous. There's no time for that because police officers are reflexively trained to go in heavy, to go in strong, to be aggressive. And that's a key part of this, that when you talk to people and you talk to police about what needs to change, what's a fundamental change that needs to be done in police training, the attitude needs to change away from dominating as quickly as possible and more towards, okay, let's all take a deep breath, as we encourage children to do in schools, that instead of just lashing out, if you're angry, you take a deep breath and you count to 5 and then react. If we could only get police officers to be trained to do that as well, I think you would see communities then start to respond better, and you wouldn't have cases like this where now you have a girl, she's 10 years old now or 12 years old 2 years later. She may have a view of police that is terrible for the rest of her life, and that does not help her community, and it certainly does not help the police.
And the corollary to that problem, David, is that we mainly tell the cops, take control and do it right away, because anyone can shoot you within half a second. So make sure that you're dominating, sometimes shooting, beating, etc., before the other guy gets a chance to do it. No, it's supposed to be a tough job where you make judgment calls, and yes, sometimes you wait past half a second before you light into someone. Hey, oh look, it's a 10-year-old, I shouldn't do it. In the case of Tamir Rice, oh look, it's a 12-year-old with a toy gun, which almost all kids have. Maybe I should have waited more than a second before I shot him to death, right? But we don't teach the cops that. Why? Because honestly, they're being selfish. They're saying, well, I'd rather take a risk with your life, whether I'm traumatizing a 10-year-old or I'm killing a 12-year-old, I'd rather take that risk than any risk with my life. Well, then don't be a cop, go be an accountant. Good, there's a lot of safe jobs. I mean, imagine if the fire department was like, what do you want us to do, risk our lives by going into a burning building? Yeah, that's kind of the job. So please, do your job and do it with thoughtfulness and good judgment. Doesn't it sound like, as I said that out loud, didn't almost all of you think, there's no chance that the cops in America are gonna do that? There's something wrong with our system of government when we think there's no way in the world cops or politicians will ever do the right thing and will ever listen to the citizens. Something deeply wrong.
Speaking of wrong, Cenk, the Pentagon and some of their contractors, $50,000 for a single garbage can that used to cost $300 in an aircraft. Well, now the Pentagon is overpaying. The contractors are squeezing the military. And why? Because, well, now the contracts are not as competitive as they once were. That story's coming up.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to member comments as usual. Magenta Dragon writes in, any chance the GOP censured Schiff with the intention of affecting the Senate race? You know, I thought about the same thing, and we'll talk about it in the Schiff story. That's an interesting theory. Mainly, I think I'm gonna go with no, because I don't think they're that smart. But if they were, yeah, they would try to censure Schiff so that he has a better chance of winning, because he's way more Republican than Katie Porter, who's in that race. Weird Al Dragonovich writes in, progressives should use religion too, saying they follow the teachings of Christ, tax the rich, feed and house the poor, then call out Republicans for doing the opposite, making them antichrist. Well, that's exactly what I did in Justice is Coming. So I'm doing the audio version of the book now, and yesterday I was reading chapter 2 where I talk about this, or actually chapter 3. Chapter 3 is called Why Republicans Suck. So you can pre-order at tyt.com/justice, but I do the exact thing you're talking about. No, Jesus Christ said, sell all of your possessions and give everything to the poor, and the rich are not going to heaven. Okay, so the Republicans are the most anti-Christian people in the whole country. Not even close, absolute fact, okay? How about turn the other cheek? They hate it. How about help the travelers, the immigrants, etc.? They hate it. On and on and on. They would, all right, just read the book, you'll get the rest. Okay, Inquisitor, I'm butchering that, obviously, writes in, we need to remind Florida and other states that FEMA is federal. Oh, come on. You're not gonna be able to remind them of anything. Textan writes in, my AC is brand new, but my power company is sending out the please conserve emails I get just before rolling blackouts start. Fingers crossed, it's crazy hot even for Houston. That is definitely true. And by the way, now Texas passed a law saying that local ordinances are not allowed to protect workers in the heat. They're not now gonna be able to take a 10-minute break to get water, because corporations need that extra 10 minutes, and that's who the Republicans work for. And so it just keeps getting worse. Trump's Lady Lumps makes a good point. I feel bad for whoever was using the restroom when that turbulence hit. I'll leave it at that. Little Mac McGee says, so sick of living in a country I fought and lost soldiers for that exists like this. It disgusts me. Jam says, being a cop seems like it drains the humanity out of a lot of people. And a lot of people who become cops typically aren't the most empathetic or observant people to begin with. Look, that's what I'm worried about with the training. We train them to be brutal to the citizens. And that's the actual problem. Moonlit Cat Dragon as a YouTube member says, I'm 29 and I think David Schuster is extremely sexy and handsome man. Keep up the fight to educate the world. Love from Canada. Interesting, the people have spoken. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, David, and look at all these wonderful new people. Divinely Aware, Kyle Tannenhill, M. Brown, Greg Griffin, and Burgundy will read anything in the prompter as long as you become a member. Eat Me just joined. So hit the join button below on YouTube and have some fun. And you can do it at tyt.com/join as well. And every member helps us do honest reporting and try to fight for change for you guys. All right, David, what's next?
Well, what's the most amount that any of you watching this program, listening, would spend for a garbage can? Well, for the Pentagon, that number is apparently $50,000, because that's what they paid to a military defense contractor, according to a new report from Responsible Statecraft. Private contractors have been jacking up the prices of simple items, and the Pentagon agreed to screw over the taxpayers and shell out an extra $1.3 million for those unnecessary markups, including trash bins. Again, this comes from Responsible Statecraft. Until 2010, Boeing charged an average of $300 for a trash container used in the E-3 Century, and a surveillance and radar plane based on the 707 civilian airliner. When the 707 fell out of use in the United States, the trash can was no longer a commercial item, meaning that Boeing was not obligated to keep its price at previous levels, according to a weapons industry source. In 2020, the Pentagon paid Boeing over $200,000 for 4 of the trash cans, translating to roughly $51,606 per unit. In a 2021 contract, the company charged $36,640 each for 11 trash containers, resulting in a total cost of more than $400,000. The apparent overcharge cost taxpayers an extra $600,000 between the 2 garbage can contracts. But that's not all. There are other examples, of course, of egregious and wasteful spending. In another case, Lockheed Martin hyped the price of an electrical conduit for a P-3 plane as much as 14-fold, costing the Pentagon an additional $133,000 between 2008 and 2015. Jamaica Bearings, a company that distributes parts manufactured by other firms, sold the Department of Defense 13 radio filters that had once cost $350 each, for nearly $49,000 per unit in 2022. The apparent markup cost taxpayers more than $600,000 in extra fees. 60 Minutes recently did an investigation highlighting the rampant price gouging in the arms industry, including one case in which Boeing overcharged taxpayers by more than $500 million for missiles used in the Patriot missile defense system. The investigation also revealed that Raytheon Technologies had raised the price of Stinger missiles from $25,000 each to more than $400,000 per unit. Even accounting for inflation and some improvements, that's a 7-fold increase, according to Shea Assad, a former Pentagon acquisitions official, told 60 Minutes. And these companies, by the way, of course, are making out like bandits. About half of the Biden administration's $842 billion Pentagon budget request goes to contractors. In 2022, roughly 30% of military spending went to the big 5 weapons makers, which include Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and Northrop Grumman. And again, this comes from Connor Eccles, Responsible Statecraft. Jack, I remember it was like 30 or 40 years ago where there was something like hammers were costing the Air Force, several $1,000s, and that sparked all kind of outrage. But now it's just gotten exponentially more egregious.
Yeah, look, just because they wear suits doesn't mean they're not crooks. So these guys, the defense contractors, overcharging us by $500 million here, $500 million there. They're complete and utter crooks. And their co-conspirators are almost all of the politicians in Congress. There are some progressives that vote no on these budgets. In fact, let's be honest, in the last Pentagon budget, there was only one person that voted no, and it was Ro Khanna. Yes, he's a progressive, and even everyone else still voted for it. And so, no, this is absolutely outrageous. There's no accountability. And the reason there's no accountability is because they literally bribe, campaign contributions. Mainstream media, are you happy that we all pretend that they're not bribes? They're bribes. They bribe them so that they give millions of dollars to these greasy, crooked politicians, almost all of them. They take that and then they go, oh my God, it is so important that we have defense. No, they should not pass audits. They should just rob us goddamn blind and give me a part of the proceeds. Oh, oops. Did I say that out loud? Well, you didn't, and the media is never going to correct you on it, but we're now part of the media, so we're correcting your ass. Let me give you more graphics here. Graphic 7. In December, the Pentagon flunked its 5th consecutive audit, unable to account for more than 60% of its $3.5 trillion in total assets. So they can't find over $2 trillion. They can't find it. Totally unaccounted for. Not 2 million, not 2 billion, 2 trillion. They're like, oh golly gee, why? Did you want the 2 trillion? Yeah, God damn it, I did want the 2 trillion. I wanted to go to paid family leave, free college. I wanted to go to a higher minimum wage. I wanted to go to things that actually help Americans. Child tax credit, it was incredibly popular. We could have spent that money on all of us. We could have spent it on Democrats, we could have spent it on Republicans, we spent it on independents, spend it on actual Americans. Instead, a bunch of crooks stole it. And then the politicians helped them steal it. And then mainstream media comes in and does the cover up. Oh, I don't see a crime here. What, oh, $2 trillion is missing? No, that's not a problem at all. Let's talk about trans athletes in high school sports, all 7 of them, because that's the major issue. Okay, I'm gonna give you more. Then you get crooks like Joe Manchin, a total and utter criminal. He's worried though. He is worried about wasting the government, to be fair, okay? So let's go to graphic 10. I cannot accept our economy or basically our society moving towards an entitlement mentality. Oh, I'm sorry, he didn't say that about the Defense Department or the missing trillions of dollars from the Pentagon. He said that about poor people when they were getting the child tax credit. And he's like, they shouldn't get it. They're just the average American. A bunch of people think they're entitled. They didn't even bribe me. They didn't contribute a single dollar to my yacht. He literally lives on a yacht. And all of the defense contractors bribe him 24/7, and he doesn't mind trillions of dollars being flushed down the toilet or put into a $50,000 or $500,000 trash can. But God forbid that any actual American gets money, well then he's super mad about the entitlement complex. Last one from me, graphic 11, gives you a sense of scale of our budget. Look at the military, nearly half of the entire budget. Once you put in veteran benefits, it's more than half. What do we need all that defense for? What the hell are we talking about? It's not defense. It's to go invade random countries so they can make even more money. Bunch of criminals. If you stole $2 trillion, what do you think would happen to you? Now watch, Jake Tapper will jump in and blame me and go, you can't say they stole it, they just can't find it. You guys are a joke. Everyone in power is a joke and they steal from us day in and day out. That's reality.
Jack, at least there's an effort by at least Bernie Sanders, of course, to try to make the Pentagon pay for this sort of malfeasance, since he's actually gotten some support for his bill from Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa. So what they've done is they've rolled out a bill that essentially would force the Pentagon not only to undergo an audit, which they do now, but actually to pass the audit. And if this audit, if it's called the the Pentagon Act of 2023, it would force every component of the Defense Department that fails an audit in fiscal year 2024 to return 1% of its budget to the Treasury Department. Here's what Bernie Sanders said of the bill. The Pentagon and the military-industrial complex have been plagued by a massive amount of waste, fraud, and financial mismanagement for decades. That is absolutely unacceptable. If we're serious about spending taxpayer dollars wisely and effectively, we've got to end the absurdity of the Pentagon being the only agency in the federal government that has never passed an independent audit. And to put a fine point, Jack, on what you were saying about Joe Manchin, that he's not really concerned about Pentagon wasteful spending, but damn, is he really concerned about Social Security and other social safety net programs that he says he would rather take away. Here is Manchin talking about that just last November.
Looking ahead, what are the similar opportunities for bipartisan action?
You're going to get your financial house in order. We cannot live with this crippling debt. If they don't get their house in order, if we don't look at the trust funds that are going bankrupt, whether it be Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, Highway, all the ones, Alan, are in tremendous problems right now. If we can't come to grips of how we face the financial challenges this country has, then we're all going to be paying a price that we can't afford.
We can't afford it. And Manchin, by the way, also added, I cannot accept our economy or basically our society moving towards an entitlement mentality. of course, we have an entitlement mentality with our defense contractors. That's why they are gouging us. And oh, by the way, part of the problem is they don't have competition. A lot of these contracts are no bid, so they're able to get away with jacking up the prices because nobody else is bidding on this stuff. And to put another finer point on this, Cenk, if you look at the total amount of, let's talk about how the US military spends compared to the top 10 other industrialized nations. The United States spends more on defense than the next 10 industrialized nations combined. And of course, if you're a defense contractor, you are making out like a bandit. Your stock prices are up. You're able to give stock buybacks. You're able to give bonuses. You've got executives who are making $20 to $25 million a year. And of course, because they are able to charge what they want to charge. And there's essentially nothing that the Pentagon, or at least the Department of Defense, has been doing right now to put an end to this and to actually ask these contractors to cost the Pentagon a fair market value. Well, hopefully Bernie Sanders can get some traction behind his effort. That would at least be a start.
So, by the way, great job by Bernie. He's one of the very few people who's actually trying to do anything in Congress. It's a perfectly good bill. It's literally the least we can ask for. If you can't tell us where the money is, and we have no confidence where the money is going and whether you guys are just literally stealing it and putting it in your pockets, then at least give us back 1% of the budget. It has no chance of passing. Every Republican will vote against it, and then crooks like Joe Manchin, who claim to care about the deficit, will all of a sudden they're like, 1% of the defense budget just because they're stealing it? No way, no. How will I get my bribes? My yacht needs a new yacht within a yacht. I can't do that. What a crook Joe Manchin is. And what does mainstream media call Joe Manchin every time? Moderate. If you polled Bernie's bill, the right wing doesn't want the Pentagon, right wing voters doesn't want the Pentagon stealing from us either, and they don't want endless wars either. It would poll at about 90% of Americans. God damn it, give us at least 1% back if you can't pass an audit. Yet in Congress, it has a 0% chance because this country is run almost exclusively by crooks.
And those crooks are demanding that we crack down on the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare. And sure, there are various government programs. Any government program is not going to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. But it's so amazing to me, Cenk, that you have Republicans who are so hyped up and so angry about the waste and the fraud and the abuse that exists in Social Security programs and Medicare. And we've got to do something about it. And yet when you then ask them about, okay, well, let's talk about something that actually has even more waste, fraud, and abuse and a higher dollar figure, the military, oh, no, we're not gonna do that. We just let the Pentagon, we give the Pentagon the money and they do what they want. Well, that's a problem. And that just sort of underscores why I think so many people, it's not that we are necessarily anti-military or anti-Pentagon. It's like we don't like the fact that the Pentagon is essentially an entitlement program for people who make bombs and missiles. And yes, maybe some bombs and missiles are necessary to US national security, but it is not necessary for the taxpayers to be put on the hook for paying $50,000 for a freaking garbage can in a plane that used to cost $300.
All right, we got to do the last story. It's too amazing. Let's do it.
All right, Cenk, this one is, I'm gonna call it corporate vote. The small town of Seaford, Delaware. Well, it's gained a national attention for a proposed bill that would have allowed corporations to vote in local elections. Here's an excerpt from the bill, which was introduced in April. Every owner of property in the city as of the day of final registration next preceding the annual election, whether a natural person or artificial entity, including but not limited to corporate partnerships, trusts, and limited liability companies, and who is registered to vote in the book of registered voters maintained at City Hall, shall have one vote. An artificial entity shall be a domestic entity in the state of Delaware and be in good standing. The bill would have given corporations, of course, huge amounts of power. Just 340 people in Seaford voted in the most recent election on April 15th, and the bill would potentially provide as many as 234 votes to the businesses in the community. And oh, by the way, corporations, of course, already have a lot of privileges in Delaware. The state is one of just a few that do not charge corporations income tax and allow corporation officers to hide themselves behind a vast web of secrecy. Delaware is also home to the 200-year-old Chancery Court, which presides over corporate disputes and helps give the state its pro-business reputation. Its business court has been a model for 25 other states, often delivering more favorable outcomes to corporations than regular district courts would. David Genshaw, the mayor of Seaford, supported the bill. He said, These are the people we're trying to attract to our community that we're asking to invest, to hire. Why wouldn't we give them a right to vote? I find it hard to believe. Who wouldn't want that to happen? These are folks that have fully invested in the community with money, with their time, with their sweat. We want them to have a voice if they choose to take it. Democrats control the Seaford legislature, and for a while, it seemed like they might actually pass the bill. State House Speaker Peter Schwarzkopf said in a committee hearing in May that he is kind of caught in a pickle here, he said. I don't think it's a good idea, but I don't think I want to vote to stop it.
Why not?
And thankfully, the story has a happy ending for now, at least for those of us who are of the sane minds. Here's what More Perfect Union reported yesterday, breaking: the Delaware House removed the Seaford LLC bill from its agenda and adjourned without a vote. A big win for democracy in the first state for now, but Delaware could go a step further and pass HB 189 to ban LLCs from voting in all local elections.
Okay.
Of course, House Bill 189 was introduced by progressives and would deny all corporations and other artificial entities the right to vote.
Yeah, an LLC is a corporation, and they could already vote in some elections in Delaware. That's cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. So I learned this during the Bush-Cheney years when we had to study torture because they started torturing people on behalf of America. It turns out that you've broken a detainee that you're torturing when you can get them to admit things that they know aren't true, that are obviously not true. Then they're broken and they'll tell you anything that you want. And that was actually the point. Dick Cheney ordered that kind of torture so they can get them to say false things about how Iraq attacked us when Iraq had not attacked us. The whole country is being tortured by our politicians and our media as they pretend these outrageous things are not outrageous. A corporation voting? Are you guys mental? What does that mean? Why the hell would a corporation vote? It's not a person. So by the way, some guy in Delaware. So remember, this was to make sure that all corporations could vote in all elections. And the Democrats said, oh, we're in a pickle. What? Wait, why are you in a pickle? Where's the pickle? Oh, that's because you're crooks and you get donations, i.e. bribes, from those same companies. They're like, oh man, I mean, they're obviously not human beings, and them voting is just nuts. But on the other hand, I'm a criminal and I take bribes from them. So, I'm in a pickle. I'm in a pickle. By the way, another guy, another politician from Delaware is Joe Biden. You know what Joe Biden's nickname used to be when he was in the Senate? There's tons of companies that register in Delaware. Credit card companies are enormous in Delaware. And in the old days, there was a credit card company called MBNA. Biden's nickname was the senator from MBNA. Because he would represent credit card companies religiously. Law after bill after bill after bill to give credit card companies the ability to crush you and make sure that you can't ever get out of your debts. That's who Joe Biden is. That's how these Democrats in Delaware are, who are in a pickle. How about Republicans? 100% corrupt. They're all in favor of companies being able to vote. So since some of the LLCs can already vote in Delaware, some guy who set up 31 LLCs and got to vote 31 times. One guy voting 31 times, no, it's okay. It was one human and 30 corporations. Corporations are not human beings. Anyone who tells you that, including the Supreme Court, all the crooked politicians and all the crooked media, they're lying. They're gaslighting you to the point of torture. They are not human. They have no human rights. We are their creator. We can choose whatever rights they have. To argue that they have constitutional rights like free speech, which is now interpreted as completely and utterly allowing bribery, and now voting? No. I'm here to tell you, everyone else that pretends this stuff is normal is 100% lying to you, and they are part of corporate rule and corporate tyranny. This is madness. They're not at all human. And all they do is bribe our politicians and buy off our governments. That's the reality. We gotta go.
And I don't even understand, Cenk, what more do these people who support LLCs and corporations having a vote, what more do they want than what they already have? As he pointed out, thanks to the Supreme Court, saying that, oh yeah, corporations can give unlimited sums of money into our political process. They can bribe, they can corrupt, they can spend as much money through PACs, whatever a corporation wants to spend, that's fine. There's no limits for PACs. And oh, by the way, maybe there's some limits in terms of direct contributions, but a lot of corporations don't give money that way. So what else do these people who support corporations want? What are you gonna get from being able to vote and have a corporation vote that you don't already get through the amount of money, corporate money that is washing through the system and corrupting the process? It seems absurd to me.
David, I asked the same question. It turns out there is an answer. It's because they're in these small little towns in Delaware, and they want to strip the town from having the ability to regulate them at all. So it's completely lawless. And in those small towns, there's so many corporations that they could outvote the citizens.
Wow, so development, and they can say, let's get rid of the wastelands, let's sort of build in areas, let's destroy things. Let's not worry about, I don't know, environmental dangers or hazards to our citizens. Let's do whatever we can vote for. We take our vote and we suddenly say, oh yeah, we're gonna build those power lines, and we're gonna build that, that power plant that may be dangerous and untested, and we're gonna put cell phone towers and all sorts of stuff that we don't really quite know the health hazards yet. We'll put that next to a school, because who cares? Because the corporations, those businesses want it, as opposed to the citizens who have to live their lives there. It's remarkable.
Indeed. All right, we got to go. Everybody check out David on Rebel Headquarters. Does excellent videos there. You're gonna love it. Okay, when we come back, we've got more fighting in politics, of course. And what happened in that submarine? We've got the news, including some latest developments as well. All right, we'll be right back. You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now, these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this. You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat. Animals are innocent. Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone
is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that Black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger Black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it, though.
We've been around for about 20 years and we have about 20 billion views. Am I proud of that? Hell yeah, I am. We put out 20 billion messages in a bottle. Have we helped to move, and now 2 generations, millennials and Gen Z, to become progressive? Yes, those numbers are real. We moved generations. Were we the only ones? Of course not. But we have been the largest online news show for now decades. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Ben Glebe with you guys. All right, look at Ben. You can look at Ben on Rebel Headquarters too, where he does excellent videos. And we're also joined by Joe Gutierrez, who just became a member, and Box, who gifted 5 memberships on YouTube. We appreciate that. You guys are American heroes, and you help us to do honest reporting, which apparently this country desperately needs. So hit the join button below on YouTube and tyt.com/join everywhere else. All right, we got a lot more stories for you guys. Ben, take it away.
All right, Cenk. People like to say billionaires should not exist, but we seem to be far too obsessed with them for us to ever mean it. For days now, the story of the missing Titanic submarine has dominated headlines around the clock, and it seems now that tragically the makeshift submarine has imploded and those on board have died, including, very sadly, a 19-year-old who went there to please his father from reports that are coming in, even though he was afraid to do so. But this is also all while 2 tragic incidents of refugees dying at sea have largely been ignored, including one ongoing right now, with people that are much easier to find because we know exactly where they are, but no one seems to care because they are poor. Seems to be the only real difference. And here's what you need to know, since I'm assuming most of you don't know about the other 2 disasters. The first took place on June 14th when a boat filled with refugees sank off the coast of Greece. Take a look at this video.
It's been 1 week since an overloaded fishing trawler filled with hundreds of migrants sank off the southwest coast of Greece. The vessel left port in Libya and crossed the Mediterranean before becoming disabled. It drifted for hours before capsizing. The anger, grief, and political fallout continue. Hundreds remain unaccounted for.
The Greek authorities say they'll continue a search for bodies as long as is necessary, but there's no hope of finding anyone alive. Survivors are recovering in a refugee camp near Athens. Adil Hussain, originally from Pakistan, is looking for a friend of his brother, who is also on the boat.
I don't know where my brother is. I don't know, missing. My brother left Libya last Friday, 3 days, and I can't find him. No one will tell me. As soon as he got into the boat, he said only 50 people will fit, and they were putting 750 on board. He said it's 100% sure it'll take in water.
This is a tragedy that happened last week, and the conditions on that boat were horrifying. According to leaked testimonials told by survivors to Coast Guards, Pakistanis were forced below deck, while other nationalities were allowed on top deck, where they had a far greater chance of surviving a capsize. Greece is now facing heavy criticism for its alleged role in the boat's sinking. Last week, Greek authorities denied claims that the boat had capsized after the Coast Guard attempted to tow it to shore. Authorities initially said the Coast Guard kept its distance, but their assistance, quote, had been declined after they threw a rope to the vessel to, quote, stabilize and check if it needed help. But Tarek Al-Drubi, a man who had 3 relatives on board, told CNN that they had seen Greek authorities towing the vessel with ropes, but say they were tied in the wrong places, which caused it to capsize. The other tragic incident happened just on Tuesday, 2 days ago, near the Canary Islands off the coast of Spain, with a boat full of migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. Spanish officials said on Wednesday, just yesterday, that the dead bodies of a child and a man had been recovered, and a Moroccan patrol boat had previously rescued 24 people on a dinghy that was sinking. Migration-focused organizations said 59 people had been on board the vessel, and at least 30 were missing in the waters, and criticized Spain and Morocco for not intervening earlier. Due to a dispute over whose jurisdiction it was, a critical, horrible delay happened, yet the news would not cover it. Spain's state agency, EFE, reported that a Spanish rescue service ship, the Guardamar Calliope, was only 46 kilometers, 26 miles, only an hour's sail away from the dinghy on Tuesday evening. The Guardamar Calliope did not aid the dinghy because the operation had been taken over by the Moroccan Rescue Coordination Center in Rabat, which dispatched a patrol boat that only arrived on Wednesday morning, some 10 hours after it had been spotted by a Spanish rescue plane, FA added. Quote, it's torture to have 60 people, including 6 women and a baby, waiting for more than 12 hours for a rescue in a flimsy inflatable boat that can sink, Walking Borders Maleno said. These human beings were completely savable. Everyone knew exactly where they were. And with all respect to the tragedy today with the makeshift submarine, 30 people, if you're not good at math, is more than 5 people. Yet for some reason we care about the 5 more than the 30 that are happening at the exact same time. And again, when the 30 were much more savable due to the fact that we knew where the crash went and it was just a lack of coordinating resources to go and save these human beings.
Yeah.
Over the next 24 hours, 4 other boats filled with migrants were found in the Canary Islands, a route that usually from sub-Saharan Africa is notoriously dangerous.
Yeah, so look, reports are that at least 35 died there. So is there round-the-clock cable news coverage? So guys, I wanted to save those people from the submarine. The minute you show human beings, our hearts go out to them, right? Of course, and there's no reason why our hearts shouldn't go out to them. And I kept thinking about that 19-year-old the whole time. But here's an interesting guide for you guys on what the press cares about and doesn't care about. And by the way, the answer isn't to not care about those people on the submarine. The answer is to care about both, okay? But the press, cares about something when they start talking about children or showing children. And so for example, when we wanted to bomb Syria, there was all this propaganda to bomb Syria. And look, I say propaganda in that case, the Syrian government used chemical weapons. They're terrible. The Russians that helped them are terrible. The Russian government, not the Russian people, etc. So it's not like they didn't do anything wrong. They did, but they showed the children that had been killed because of that, so that we could do the bombing. And they showed the dead children. We do the bombing. But Yemen, a conflict created by our ally Saudi Arabia, there were thousands more children dead, but we never showed the children. So that 19-year-old breaks my heart that died on that submarine. They all do. None of them deserve that, right? But the 35 that died, that could have been saved if the boat just went 1 more hour. That also breaks my heart. But we got the disparate treatment in the press, and yes, it drives me crazy. But I don't think they're ever going to prioritize poor people ever.
And of course, Cenk, we should be equally sad and equally caring about these human lives, but also just from a saving the most people perspective. If God forbid you had to choose, if you send a boat 1 to save 5 or to save 30, and the boat's gonna go to a place where you know where the 30 are, 35 are, or where you don't know where the 5 are. And if you know that the 1 was an accident caused by people trying to better their lives, desperately trying to go and save their own lives and improve their quality of life, versus very rich people who signed waivers that said you might die multiple times on this waiver and just wanted for $250,000 each to go on a very life-risking, safety issue-riddled tourism experience to go see an old ship. If you had to quantify the tragedies, the tragedy of migrants trying to improve their lives dying is worse.
We can do both. Look, don't get me wrong. People go and decide they're gonna do tourism in North Korea, then they get captured, and then we gotta go rescue them, right? They go and decide they're gonna hike on like some insane mountain they got no business on. There's an ambulance, we gotta go rescue them. But we do, because we're human beings and life matters, right? So all we're saying is, can you also do that for poor people?
Right.
And a lot more of them. And the answer we usually get is, not really. Now look, to Ben's point about they signed the waiver, I mean, this thing was put together with like duct tape. This was madness going into this submarine. And look, the founder was in the submarine, he also passed away. But the founder, honestly, like you look back at the quotes and I'd say he's nuts, but then like almost all of our politicians also hate regulations. I mean, every Republican hates regulations. And this guy's like, oh, what do you need? Oh, there's too much regulations around submersible vehicles. Yeah, because if something goes wrong, you all die. The regulation isn't meant to hurt you, it's meant to protect your life. And when you're a knucklehead and you don't listen to that, and you convince other innocent human beings to go in that vehicle, yes, the thing that you bought off the shelf isn't gonna work, you moron. It might work once, it might work twice, but at some point, you're gonna run into an issue and you're not gonna be able to recover when you run into an issue. Because regulations aren't just, hey, does it work once? No, is it solidly built? It's the same problem we have with greedy people that make buildings that are not earthquake proof. And then all of a sudden after earthquakes, they go, oh yeah, regulations. Yet that's the point of regulations.
Exactly, and we have more information coming in now about how makeshift and just thrown together it clearly seems to have been, because of how tragically the thing imploded. Debris from the Titan submersible, including its tail cone, was found on the ocean floor on this morning, about 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic. The debris found today was, quote, consistent with catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber, close quote, in the submersible, according to Rear Admiral John Mauger of the US Coast Guard. Where the Titan submersible was found, 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic, and the size of the debris field indicates that the vessel imploded, according to Carl Hartsfield, an expert with the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. Again, a terrible tragedy, but also at least 559 people, including 22 children, died in 2022 alone in attempts to reach the Canary Islands off the coast of Spain, according to data from the UN's International Organization for Migration, and over 1,400 in the last few years. So all of these stories, as Cenk said, are tragedies, despite the media's focus only on one. And the point I think we're simply trying to make is that let's try to value all human life equally and not let the almighty dollar be what controls our attention, even when it comes to life and death issues. Our prayers are with the family and our condolences to the families of all who have lost life.
Real quick, last 2 points. Look, the media doesn't just cover rich people, to be fair. It leans in that direction super heavily. You remember in 2010 when there was the Chilean miners that were stuck in the mine? You remember the little girl that was stuck in a mine? And they did cover that, right? And those folks were not rich.
But it's only because there was not rich people missing that week. In fairness, they want stories to drag our attention and keep us hooked to this. But if all things being equal, a billionaire's life is worth to our media far more than the life of a poor Chilean miner.
They pay a lot more attention to it. And then the last thing I'll say that kind of proves that point is that, look, when you talk about the 559 people that died crossing the Canary Islands and 22 kids, etc., invariably, at some points, usually a right winger will say, well, they made that choice. They made that choice to try to cross over to Europe. Yeah, but the billionaires made the choice to go in the rinky-dink submarine for no reason, just to do some sort of weirdo tourism, right? So people make choices, and as Ben said earlier, the immigrants that are coming in, they're doing it because they feel like their lives are in such bad shape, and they're trying to save their family. So they're doing it out of desperation and need to take care of their own. That is far more, let's be honest, important than doing like submarine tourism. So save them both, but let's also prioritize. Let's focus on people who are desperately trying to live. When we've got them on a boat where we know they are, please go get them. So that's the reality. All right, we got to take a break, guys. When we come back, more insanity from the US Congress. All right, back during the social break here. Hello, somebody has a point about the Schiff story we're gonna get to in a second. I bet the GOP did censure Schiff because he is a Republican. I have received at least 10 fundraising texts and emails from or for Schiff, clear as day. So that's Schiff trying to take advantage of the situation. I received the same things.
Same.
Yep. So whether the Republicans meant that, well, like I said, we'll discuss that in a little bit. Chris Smith wrote in, Cenk worked at a consulting firm when the DoD FIAR program started in 2012, 2013. Couldn't account for it then. Think planes, boats, missiles, etc. Lost interest, enroll quickly. No, I mean, look, even if they're not actively trying to rip us off, which is hilarious, of course they are. But even if they weren't, for corporations to go, oh, the US government gave me millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, but I can't find it. No, we would never, ever accept that. If it was like a company and a company, they'd get sued, there'd be massive repercussions, etc. But when it's the government and they bribed everybody in government, perfectly fine, steal away. Or, oh golly gee, I'm so incompetent, I lost $2 trillion. Then why are we giving you all the contracts? All right.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I could. Lifetime Supply of Dragons writes in, John Iadarola was right when it comes to debate. Conservatives don't care about truth, they only care about winning. That's so obvious. Truth, Republican politicians, they laugh so hard at that. Trisha Briggs writes in, if it was inevitable for those two to hate each other, referring to Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's only room for one as the craziest lunatic in Congress, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Yep. Michael Malbon writes in, and this is a tough one. Tough day for me. I'm 41 years old, and a friend of mine that I graduated high school with passed away this morning. I don't know if he was a TYT member or not, but he was a solid blue bleeding progressive for decades. RIP Justin Woodruff. Michael, you're a solid member. We appreciate you writing in that personal and tough message, and our condolences. Now to YouTube members, Alyssa Burdick asks, how does a corporation vote? And that's such a great point. Honestly, I hadn't thought of that. Does the CEO go in and vote? Can any schlep from the corporation vote? And but did that person vote as a human being? So that they get to vote twice, once as a human being and once as a corporation? You see how insane this is, Allison? That's a terrific point. And Kyle Tannehill writes in, meanwhile, Trump never saw a second of handcuffs. referring to that story out of Sacramento with the girl. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT. Cenk and Ben with you guys. Ben's got more news.
Chaos in Congress. What? Take a look.
On this vote, the ayes are 213 and the nays are 209. With 6 answering present, the resolution adopted. Without objection, the motion to consider is laid on the table. House will be in order. All right.
That was the chaotic scene on the House floor yesterday after Republicans voted to censure Democrat Adam Schiff for being a meaniehead to Donald Trump. Okay, that wasn't quite what their reasoning was. Schiff, a former Intel committee chair, was censured over comments he made years ago during investigations into former President Donald Trump and the Trump campaign's ties to Russia, which interfered in the 2016 election to aid Trump, special counsel Robert Mueller found. The censure resolution rebukes Schiff for what it calls his, quote, misleading the American public and for conduct unbecoming of an elected member of the House of Representatives, close quote. A vote to censure a member of Congress doesn't actually mean that much beyond a public condemnation of the member's behavior. It doesn't take away any privileges in Congress or expel the member. The resolution did, however, also direct the House Ethics Committee to investigate Schiff's actions. In response, Adam Schiff thanked his Republican colleagues.
To my Republican colleagues who introduced this resolution, I thank you. You honor me with your enmity. You flatter me with this falsehood. You who are the authors of a big lie about the last election must condemn the truth tellers, and I stand proudly before you. Your words tell me that I have been effective in the defense of our democracy, and I am grateful. And yet this false and defamatory resolution comes at a considerable cost to the country and to the Congress. At a moment when millions of people in our home state of California are unable to find a place to live or afford a place to live, Speaker McCarthy chooses to occupy the resources of Congress for 2 straight weeks on this hollow sop to the MAGA crowd. Donald Trump is under indictment for actions that jeopardize our national security, and McCarthy would spend the nation's time on petty political payback, thinking he can censure or fine Trump's opposition into submission. But I will not yield, not 1 inch.
Bold words right there from Adam Schiff. I'm curious your thoughts on this, Cenk, because obviously Adam Schiff is kind of a mixed bag.
So it was an eloquent speech, but it was almost too eloquent. When he said, you honor me with your enmity. That's a good line for a book, but did people understand what he was saying? Did the average voter understand he wasn't actually thanking them? He was saying, what FDR said much clearer. FDR said, I welcome your hatred. Everybody gets that, right? It's crystal clear. So I mean, look, he's no FDR. It's a high bar, right?
One counterpoint on that, though, is I think to some degree with the Republican base being maybe not the sharpest tools in the shed, just him thanking them for what they did, just that word, I think diffuses their action to a lot of people because that clip's gonna make them think, oh, he's happy about it? Even if they don't get that he's being sarcastic, they're gonna think, oh, it's not a bad thing, perhaps.
Yeah. So that's Schiff, and look, Schiff is running for Senate against Katie Porter and Barbara Lee in California. Katie Porter and Barbara Lee are far more progressive. Adam Schiff is so conservative economically that our members have been asking you all day long, is this the Republicans trying to help Adam Schiff win that election because he gets to raise a ton of money by going, I'm the victim of the Republicans. Having said all that,
and that's why he's thanking them.
Yeah, well, that's true. He's probably raised like $1 million at least from this, so he's got to be thanking them big time. And that was real. But guys, having said all that, of course this is wrong. Adam Schiff is right. Adam Schiff didn't do anything wrong. He disagrees with them politically. Now you're censuring people for disagreements? That doesn't make any sense at all. Like the Republicans are such jackasses. There's nothing to debate. Well, how am I supposed to debate? Well, we didn't like what he said. We're going to censure him. No, censure was supposed to be for criminal activity or something outrageous. Right?
True, but just counterpoint of that, did he not go on TV repeatedly and say, I have evidence that Trump himself colluded with Russia, and that evidence did not materialize? That's a pretty bold statement to make. If
Are you kidding me? Then great, let's censure all the politicians. They're all liars. Okay, here, ask any of them. Did your corporate donations affect your vote? Oh no, censure, 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 okay? They're all liars. And in that case, look, Adam Schiff, who knows what he meant by evidence, etc. And by the way, they make it seem like Trump's, like Robert Mueller proved that the Russians didn't do anything in the 2016 election. No, Robert Mueller said the Russians did interfere in the election and they did it to help Trump. All he said was Trump didn't do anything back, right? Like meaning within the election, a quid pro quo, right? He might have done things back later when he was president, but he didn't do it during the election. And by the way, I agree with that conclusion. But Schiff saying he's got evidence that however he phrased it about the Russians interfering in that election isn't even wrong. If he says he had evidence that Trump actively colluded with it, yeah, that's wrong. I would put that in the bucket of tens of thousands of lies that they say every day in Congress.
And speaking of lies every day in Congress, leading up to this vote to censure Schiff, Democratic Rep. Dan Goldman made a comparison of Adam Schiff to Republican George Santos, who was literally just arrested for alleged financial crimes.
One of my colleagues says, we will hold members accountable. You are the party of George Santos. Who are you holding accountable? The guy is an alleged and acknowledged liar and indicted, and you protect him every day. Don't lecture us with your projection and your defense of Donald Trump. It's pathetic, and it's beneath you, and it's beneath this body, and I yield back.
Well made point. Nonetheless, Republicans like Lauren Boebert, one of the brilliant minds in our government, called for Schiff to leave Congress altogether.
If Adam Schiff has a shred of human decency left, he would resign from Congress in disgrace.
I mean, first of all, if you do resign, you don't resign in disgrace yourself. You probably don't think it's disgraceful. In response to antics like those and their pathetic desire to defend dear Donald Trump, Adam Schiff had some very choice words.
The question, my Republican colleagues, is not why am I the subject of this false resolution for doing my constitutional duty, but why are you not? Why are you not standing beside me, the subject of a similar rebuke for speaking the truth? Why did you not stand up to Donald Trump? Why did you not reject his immorality? Why did you not condemn his dishonesty? Why did you not speak out when his horde attacked this Capitol, or now when he treats the nation's secrets with such carelessness, lawlessness, and disdain? Why did you hide from efforts to hold him accountable? Why were you silent, afraid, unwilling to do your ethical, constitutional duty? Why did you cower? Why did you cower? And why do you still?
Why? Because they just want power and money and have no morals.
Problem solved. We figured it out. Solved it. Okay, so look, Dan Goldman's a corporate Democrat too, but he gives good speeches and I like it. At least he fights back against Republicans. Fair credit where credit is due. Look, here's what I would have done. And Schiff's speech is perfectly fine, okay? So I'm not criticizing him for it. But I'm more of a blunt instrument. I would have been like, we're talking about lying? We're talking about lying, okay? You guys went along with a fake elector scheme. You tried to overthrow our democracy because you're all of you are a bunch of goddamn liars. And then I would have listed names, McCarthy and the others. Liar, believed in fake electors, fake electors, fake electors.
Didn't believe, pretended to believe.
Yeah, so no, spare me your crocodile tears about lying, you trash heap of liars that form the entirety of the Republican Party. And so, and look, Democrats suck at this overall, okay? Because on this January 6th thing, they keep saying like the insurrectionists and the horde that came into the party. No, you have to focus on fake electors. They literally had fake electors, when you hear fake elector, you go, oh yeah, those guys are lying. Oh my God, they were trying to overthrow the election. Oh my God, they hate democracy. No, every day they should be talking about fake electors, hate democracy, bunch of fascists. You know who comes up with fake electors? Fascists do. I censure all of you, okay? I'm a blunt instrument, but he was polite and it was a fine speech. All right, we got to take a break. All right, when we come back, are Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg actually going to fight, physically fight? And the answer is maybe. Holy cow, this country is totally nuts. We'll be back. Members, I do declare rights in. I have to disagree with Goldman's comment that this is below the GOP. They're below nothing. I thought the same exact thing. Just didn't have time to say it. Love it. Wolf Dragon Donna says, I can't wait until a corporation runs for president. And watch, the entire media will be like, right, yeah, that's perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. I wonder who's going to win, ExxonMobil or Johnson & Johnson. It's going to be an amazing race. Okay, they're human beings. They're human beings. And the bribes are just free speech.
It's the idiocracy president of Hector Macho Mountain Dew Camacho with all of his racing stuff all over it.
Yes, that's literally where we are. Literally. Okay, Theater Goddess writes in, part of the reason that the sub-story has garnered so much attention is because it plays to the universal fears of being trapped and slowly suffocating while being helpless. This story seems to be getting about as much attention as the miners being trapped in a collapse, while the refugee tragedies are being suppressed by people who don't want us to see how truly broken and callous our leaders are. I think all of that is exactly right. I mentioned the miners as well. John Campbell Reese, on the other hand, says, it just shows that nothing has changed in 110 years. All the poor people in steerage aboard the Titanic were trying to improve their lives. They were locked on their decks, so the rich people had exclusive access to the lifeboats. Oof, so money talks, man. Money has driven this planet insane. And might soon end it with climate change. Crystal Braden says, if they start letting non-entities vote, can I start casting votes on behalf of my old stuffed animals and action figures that are in storage at my mom's house? Like seriously, how the hell could anyone think letting corporations vote is a good idea? They don't think it's a good idea. That's why the Democrats said, well, I'm in a pickle here. It's obviously ridiculous. On the other hand, they have got great juicy bribes. Now he didn't say the last part, but it's implicit. Otherwise, why would you be in a pickle? Why would you let Crystal's old stuffed dolls vote? Why would that put you in a pickle? Unless Crystal was also stuffing your pockets full of money. Then all of a sudden, Crystal, you'd be in the ball game, and so would Gizmo. Okay? You think I can't get them? Like if I had enough money, God, man, that's one place where money could be helpful. If I had enough money, I would have politicians walking around on their knees in the studio. Maybe I'll walk them with leashes, okay? Because they'll do it. They'll do anything for money. They'll do anything for it.
I got a couple choices in mind for those. I will not say out loud.
The problem is that they might enjoy it. Exactly. No good name ideas, Dragon says, what should happen after every audit? Can't find 60%? You get 60% less next fiscal year. There's no reason why that shouldn't be true. Well, go find the other 60% and I'll give you the money back. Why should I give you money if you can't find it? So I'm not giving you 60%. 0% chance of happening because everybody in Congress is a crook. And John Campbell Reese writes in, one more time, meteorologists are saying the storms off of Africa that might become hurricanes are starting to appear now. This is a couple of months too early. Hurricane season could be longer and more powerful because of the heat wave this year. Yeah, we're totally screwed. The planet's cooked. All right, back on TYT, Cenk Uygur, Ben Glebe. You can find Ben on Rebel headquarters. And also Livia Borsia and Shio Hatter. They just became Young Turks members, and if you're a Young Turks member, you do the show with us. We can't do the show without you guys. You're our army that helps support honest reporting here and fight like hell for change. So we appreciate it. You could do the join button below the video on YouTube, or you could do tyt.com/join. Ben.
Sure, we're facing epidemics of hunger and homelessness on a planet that's becoming more and more inhospitable to human life every day. But bored billionaires, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are looking to get some attention. And good for them, they deserve it. It's been 5 minutes. Two of the manliest men of the internet, said incredibly sarcastically, challenged each other to a cage fight. For real. This I would actually love to see. Here are the details. It all started with reports that Instagram would soon have a feature called Threads to compete with Twitter. Competition, oh no. Mario Nawfal tweeted, Meta to release Twitter rival called Threads. Not making this up. Meta, the same company that copied Snapchat, TikTok, StumbleUpon, Foursquare, BeReal, and Clubhouse, began coding Project 92 3 months after Elon acquired Twitter. Rumors have been circulating about the app's public name being Threads. Meta's chief product officer, Chris Cox, described Project 92 as our response to Twitter and mentioned it will allow Instagram users to automatically transfer their followers and user information straight to the new app. At least that would be good. Cox threw shade at Elon Musk's Twitter by claiming Meta's been hearing from creators and public figures who are interested in having a platform that is sanely run. This is ironic considering the Wall Street Journal's investigation a few weeks ago into the proliferation of child pornography rings on Instagram and Facebook. And let's not forget, Meta is the same platform that censored the lab leak theory and the Hunter Biden laptop. Will Threads be a genuine Twitter rival? Muskie no like that and took a shot at Zuckerberg. Tweeting, I'm sure Earth can't wait. Yes, I'm sure Earth can't wait to be exclusively under Zuck's thumb with no other options. At least it will be, quote, sane. Was worried there for a moment, laughing emoji. Twitter users started warning Musk, but the defiant CEO doubled down, tweeting in response to somebody saying, be careful, Elon Musk. I heard he does the jujitsu now. Musk replying, I'm up for a cage match if he is, LOL. And that led to the other billionaire chiming in. Zuckerberg shot back by posting a screenshot of Musk's tweet with the caption, send me location. In the very human way Zuckerberg likes to talk. He's always got that human touch. Send me location, I show up and do fighting program. Musk versus Zuckerberg would be as good as it gets. Musk, 51, has the upper hand as far as size, physically, and he has talked about being in real hardcore street fights when he was growing up in South Africa. Musk responded to Zuckerberg saying, if this is for real, I will do it, fire emoji, fire emoji. But has Elon thought this through? Here is some B-roll of Zuckerberg fighting. Zuckerberg, 39 years old, is an aspirational MMA fighter who is already winning jiu-jitsu tournaments. He also claims to have recently competed the grueling Murph Challenge workout in just under 40 minutes. He trained with Brazilian jiu-jitsu world champion Mikey Musumeci, but also who knows if that's an employee of his who he's afraid he would be murdered if he beat him in a fight. So seems like the guy's submitting pretty quickly. That's just my opinion. You be the judge. The guy's like, oh, just knock me over, no problem. But maybe Elon does need to rethink this. SDL, Socked on Left tweets, there's like an 80% chance Zuckerberg is gonna give Musk a traumatic brain injury. Another one? All right, that's where we're at, Cenk.
Okay, so I'm guilty. I'll get to that in a second. But that video did have Vladimir Putin vibes.
It did.
Like when he played against the Russian national hockey team and Putin scored 5 goals. This is one of my favorite videos we've ever shown in the Young Turks. Like the incredible athletes are sitting around going, oh, I cannot catch you. Oh, another goal. Well done, Vladimir. Okay. So, but in this case, I know they're just training. To be fair, they're just training, okay? That guy could probably rip Zuckerberg's head off. And they made out later, so it's okay. I mean, there was a lot of rolling around there. So anyway.
It'll make me more appealing if I am bi-curious. Give me a shot.
But he even looks like a robot, let's be honest, okay? Anyways, Now, why am I guilty? Look, this is all a circus, right? The whole country's turned into a circus. But I invented this thing, okay? Not the circus part, but the whole challenging to a fight thing. Let's keep it real. So I challenged Rogan to a fight. I said debate or legitimate cage fight, etc. Right? And then everybody went nuts. Oh my God, he's gonna give you traumatic brain injury, just like they're saying about. So he's trained, you're not trained. And just like Musk, I said, I used to do straight fights, etc. So I too am a knucklehead. Okay, I too have done this drug, but it wasn't. I didn't even invent it with Rogan. I did it with Smirkonish because but I have a specific point I'm trying to prove, which is Smirkonish at the time had said, "Oh, the Democrats and the liberals they're wussifying America. They're a bunch of wussies." And I was like, okay, then I'll debate you about whether we're wussies. But if you don't want to debate, and you're a manly man, right? And you want to do some wrestling, okay, I can do that too, right? And then he panicked, he wet himself, he complained to mommy, which was Ariana Huffington at the time. We were both blogging at Huffington Post. Joe Rogan hasn't responded at all, although me and Rogan, as an undercard to Zuckerberg Musk, I don't know if it's an undercard or overcard, but I mean, the pay-per-view on that one. Okay.
True, and the next day I will be the new lead anchor of the Young Turks. With all respect.
No, are you kidding me? I'm a street fighter. I got this. I got this.
Who do you take in the fight? Musk versus Zuckerberg. Who do you think wins it?
I think Zuckerberg. So 2 reasons. 1, he's been training lately, right? 2, he's younger. I think younger in this case is an advantage. He's probably in better shape. And 3, I don't think Elon Musk knows what he's doing about anything.
True.
Right? He'll probably fire his trainer and be like, yeah, I've got a great idea. I'm gonna do this with no employees. Okay.
That's what they would also call your match against Joe Rogan, younger versus Uger.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
Okay. Come on, admit that me versus Rogan, everybody would watch.
That would be pretty great. That would be pretty great.
And man, don't underestimate me. Just because I might have put on a couple of pounds.
Although I
haven't trained in a while.
Although I would love to see you actually fight Smirkonish and Rogan just announce the fight just so he could keep changing his opinion based on who's winning.
No.
See him constantly being like, I really believe Cenk's the upper hand. Wait, Smirkonish, upper hand. Big fan of his, always have been.
All right, and I used to be a wrestler in high school, so don't underestimate the big guy. But look, guys, seriously, we've turned into idiocracy. And like I said, look, I'm guilty too, okay? But me and Rogan are talk show hosts. And by the way, to be fair to him, he didn't even respond. But these 2 goofballs are billionaires. They pretty much run the country as it is. But nope, they gotta see who's bigger, right?
And watch, they're gonna agree to do it. We'll all get excited, then we're gonna see them in those big inflatable wrestling things, like those inflatable sumo outfits that just you can't even do it at children's birthday parties.
And by the way, that's I would also pay for that, to watch that. But guys, man, enjoy your billions, you knuckleheads. Enjoy your billions. What are you doing? And what are you gonna go get brain damage for? Okay, it makes no sense.
No, I think maybe they're hoping to correct the brain damage. Jog stuff back into place.
Okay, now we're having a better conversation. By the way, I challenged Rogan for the same reason. I don't remember exactly what it was now, but he was like claiming that the people on the left are weak and this and that, and that they're the real men. And look, that's why that kind of talk is nonsense. By the way, after I challenged these folks, all of a sudden there isn't a lot of talk about how they're the real men and how they're strong, etc. Usually tuck tail and run, okay? So that's the reality of it too. But in this case, there's no point that's being made, and they're not offering a debate as a possibility, which I do with Rogan, etc. I'd much rather have that, because then you're having a conversation about the issues. But these folks, they're just trying to measure themselves. You know what I'm saying? That's because, look guys, once you're a billionaire, you don't need any extra money, ever, ever, ever. You can't possibly spend that much money in a lifetime. All they're doing is measuring penises. This is just a different way of doing that.
True, and I also have a realization here too. You're challenging Rogan, Smirkonish should challenge Rogaine.
Oh, think about it.
That's a bald smack. You've been bald smacked.
What are you gonna do about it, Smirkonish? Step into the ring, huh? Just kidding, we're kidding. Okay, Smirkonish, calm down. You don't have to call Ariana.
I'll wipe the smirk right off. I'm kidding, I would never.
Although you did get into an actual fight.
Yep.
Remember when they threw you out of the restaurant and they started assaulting you?
Yep.
You get assaulted, I think, fairly frequently.
I get assaulted sometimes. I probably deserve it.
No, he does not.
No, I don't.
And don't
no,
do
I
that.
don't. Please don't do that. Absolutely, that was a joke.
In fact, in the bonus episode, we're going to talk about performers getting assaulted now, and that's no joke. And it's a disastrous trend, and we can't have that. So we'll do that in the bonus episode for the members, tyt.com/join, or hit the join button below. Okay, what else do we got in the bonus episode?
We have got a story about Fox News going woke. That's surprising to everybody. You got to hear this story. It's very interesting. And the new audience being discriminated against, vegans. It's a tough time for vegans out there right now.
Yeah, it's just like it was for pimps a while back. And you remember when that won the Grammy?
I do, yeah, of course I do. 3-6 Mafia. It's hard out there for a pimp, and it's hard out there for those of you who are not members and can't watch the bonus episode. So subscribe right now if you can, join us. We might curse a little. We will tell you things you won't believe you ever heard. And also, in the meantime, after that, feel free to check out my new stand-up comedy special, The Mad King, on YouTube.
That's a good point. Also, I think that if I fight Rogan, I should get to pick the contest. And it has to be, a physical fight of some sort of a physical test, right?
Okay, Jello wrestling it is.
I'm just saying, I should get to pick, since he's got a huge advantage, since he's trained his whole life for this, right? I should get to pick what style of fight that we do. I'm just saying, okay? Let's see how it turns out.
You guys should go elk hunting together.
Could be. Okay, all right. We're out of time. We'll see you in the bonus episode.
Hey everyone, Matteo Scarapore here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He lives with his mom, he has his girlfriend, he has his best friend, he has his neighborhood, and his neighborhood has him. Darren's also working at a Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan. And one day, this man, real suave and good looking, comes in and asks Darren to give him his regular. But for some reason, Darren says no. This man named Rhett Daniels, who's the CEO of a startup called Someone, located on the 36th floor of the same building, is impressed. And he invites Darren upstairs, and then he extends an offer to join his elite sales team. Darren reluctantly joins, and he soon realizes that he's not the only black salesperson there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he goes through hell and back in order to make it to the top. And once there, he has status, money, power, but he says, you know what? I don't like being the token black guy. So he hatches a plan to help other people of color infiltrate America's tech startup sales teams, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace. This book, definitely, if you couldn't tell, touches on many things that are relevant to this moment that we're all living in right now. But it's also connected to the many moments in history that have come before today. I hope that you read it. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you want to order a copy, go to shoptyt.com. Thank you, be well, and happy 2021.
Breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Bernie Sanders wants to break Wall Street.